The humanitarian group Save the Children issued its first disaster report card in 2008. The number of states to meet all standards has risen from 4 to 22, but most states and the nation's capital still fall short. The Save the Children report tracks progress on 4 critical standards that states require all child care centers to have, being 1, an evacuation plan, 2, a family reunification plan, a plan for children with special needs, and then 4, a plan that requires all state schools to have disaster plans that account for multiple types of hazards. Here with us is Carolyn Miles, President and CEO of Save the Children. Carolyn, good to see you. Thanks for being here with us.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
I'm wondering, first of all, what your reaction was to the results of this latest report.
Well, I think on the one hand, there's been progress, as you said, but, this morning and every morning, 68 million kids, including mine, get up in the morning and go to a school or a child care center. And I think our expectation as a parent is that they're going to be safe when they're there. And 28 states, including the District of Columbia, that's not true. They are not meeting these minimum standards. And you talked about the minimum standards a little bit. They're pretty straightforward. They're pretty simple. They're things about having evacuation plans, making sure there's a plan for special needs kids. These really are minimum standards. So, to me, what this report points out is we just haven't made enough progress for our kids here in the United States.
It almost seems like a no-brainer to me that these types of contingency plans would be in place, but there are just some pragmatic realities in play here, which I imagine might explain some states falling short. And that first of all, being finances. I mean, this costs time and money, and right now school systems are already stretched past the breaking point to just teach the children. So where do the resources come from to bring everybody up to speed?
Yeah, well, I've heard this comment, this sounds like a no-brainer. And I do think that it is about prioritizing this. I do think it's about states and school districts saying, the safety of our kids is really important and very paramount. I don't think in the states that we've been able to make this progress, so going from 4 in 2008 to 22 today, these are not hugely costly initiatives. They really are working with school districts and making sure that they have a plan, and for legislators at the state level to mandate these plans. And that does help drive action. If these things are mandated, it does help drive the plans to be made. So I think that's part of the answer.
That, Carolyn, sort of leads me to my next question. Is this important enough? You talked about priorities. Is this important enough to attach getting funding to, that these schools have to be in compliance with these minimum standards in order to receive the funding that they need?
Yes, and in some states, that's exactly what's been done. This is, I think the other thing about this year's report, we have had a tremendously difficult year, 12 months for kids. We had Hurricane Sandy, we had Sandy Hook, we had the Oklahoma tornadoes, all of which were things that very much directly impacted kids. So it's been, I think, a really tough 12 months for children. And this is the time when I think schools and states really need to take this up and say, we're going to make this a priority. And I do think those mandates will drive action.
Indeed, albeit a worthy cause. This will be something that's going to take time. In the meantime, what's your advice, recommendations to parents about what they can do with their own children to be ready in case of an unfortunate disaster?
Sure. Well, I think one of the great things that we've been able to do coming out of this report is put together some information for parents. And if you go to the website, savethechildren.org, there's actually 2 checklists on the website. One is things that parents can do, questions they can ask their school and their child care centers. So there's a list of questions and a list of things that, again, schools and child care centers should have thought through. So parents can be advocates for their kids at their school or their child care center. The other thing is that every parent can put together an emergency plan. Okay. And, I found with my own kids, that really makes them less anxious if they know you've got a plan. So that's really important.
Carolyn Miles, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.